In this video, I'm gonna break down exactly how I'd scale a business to 100K a month, taking you guys step by step through this. And this is one of the new videos that we're doing in our podcast series, really focusing on giving you guys new YouTube content to understand how you can scale your business with the lessons of how we've built our own business, as well as the lessons of how we're helping clients to build their business as well. So this channel is all about the tactical lessons that we've learned as we've scaled our business up to 2 million a year, and the lessons that we're going through as we're now scaling to $1 million a month inside of our business. And all we ever talk about on this channel is scaling your business to 100K months and ultimately continuing to add multiple six figures to the bottom line. Now, what we're going to talk about in this channel is what worked for us, what we're actively doing, and what's working for our Media Firestorm clients. And whether you're trying to scale to your first 100K a month or add, the next 100K a month, you're in the right place watching this video. Now, quick disclaimer, we don't do income claims. Everything we talk about here is just lessons, education, entertainment purposes. According to all the data I've seen online from the IRS and the Department of Labor Statistics, less than 3% of businesses ever get to 5 to 9 employees or around about the $1 million a year level. So it's really highly unlikely that you guys are actually ever gonna get to the 100K a month in your business. And so everything we're sharing here is just for educational purposes. Now, quick overview of the video today. We're going to be talking about exactly how we'd scale a business from scratch if we started over to 100K a month step by step. We're going to start with talking about $1 million math. We're going to reverse engineer the marketing inputs. We're going to talk about the importance of a compounding offer, different funnel types for success, how to fill the funnel with your marketing, and some other key things that are going to be really important to get you there. Let's start off with $1 million math. Now, one of the most important things that you guys need to recognize and understand is that if you want to get to any goal inside of your business, you have to first do literally third grade level math. Like, you just need to map the numbers out and actually figure out what you need to accomplish and what actions you're trying to take every day, every week, and every month in your business. A lot of business owners I see, they have this goal in their mind of where they want to go to, but they actually have no clear understanding of what they need to do to get to that goal. They're just endlessly trying to do activities without a clear understanding of what activities and what goals they actually need to hit. I'm a big metrics person. I'm all about the data and the numbers. And if you don't know what you need to accomplish to get to that goal, how do you even know it's viable in the first place? And so one of the very first things that we're going to do is we're going to set that monthly goal, and we're going to actually identify what your current metrics are and how much cash you're collecting on day zero, like when you first make the sale. Now, really important here is you're just going to take that monthly goal, let's say it's 100K a month, and you're going to divide it by your day zero cash collected, how much money you're actually collecting on average from customers when you transact with them. That's going to tell you the real true number of how many customers are required. Now, really important, please hear me when I say this. This is not revenue. This is not a number that you're going to get in lifetime value further down the line. It's the actual average of what you're achieving today. It's critically important that this is realistic. When I first mapped out something like this for my own business, I was selling an offer that was $10,000 at the time. And so I put these numbers in with that goal of $10,000. And I was like, okay, I need 10 deals. What I actually ended up finding out was that my average cash collected was literally only $4,500 because a lot of people would take payment plans and different options. So the numbers that I was trying to build my business on were fundamentally wrong. And so we need to get the correct numbers to begin with. And this also will help you identify if something needs to change inside of that process. So first, work out how many customers are required, and then we want to backfill the rest of those funnel metrics. And so if you have a call funnel or if you have a checkout funnel, basically just go backwards through the metrics that create the actual end outcome and work out what is required. For example, if you've got 100K as a goal and you've got $5,000 cash collected, that's 20 customers. If you have a 20% close rate, that means you need 100 live calls. And if you've got a 70% show rate, it means you need to be scheduling 143 scheduled calls, call it 150. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't want to be taking 150 calls. So the first thing that you want to identify here is this actually realistic? Is that something that you could see yourself doing? For example, if you have an agency and in order for you to hit your goal, it's going to require you to have 50 customers. that's probably not going to work, right? And so what we want to do is figure out, well, what metrics do we actually want to change, and what do we need to focus on in order to get this result that we're looking for? For example, one of the things that we did was we massively increased how much cash we were collecting, and we did that in a couple of different ways with different payment plans, different processes. We actually use a financing partner. This is one of the things that I share with some of our clients inside of Media Firestorm, the right ways to do this, and some of the specifics of how you would do this. But top level, just ask yourself, is this realistic? Is this something that I can actually accomplish? And if not, you need to change it. If you're an agency that's charging, $5K a month, and you actually need to get to 100K a month and you need 20 active clients, but you're struggling just having 3 clients right now, well, instead ask yourself, how could I get 3 clients that are gonna pay me 33K a month? And an example of that could be you have, a 12K a month retainer, and then you have a 10% net share on any profit that you generate in terms of that. So think outside of the box in terms of how you could go about achieving this result. So for this example, we need 143 scheduled calls. The next thing you want to do is you want to actually reverse engineer those marketing inputs. So just like we're working out the math and we now know I need this many scheduled calls on my calendar, we also want to look at the marketing metrics that we're running inside of our business and reverse engineer what we need to accomplish. So again, if in this example, I'm using a call funnel, I'm going to have my calendar that gets people scheduled. That conversion rate is going to be really important. I'm going to have how I generate my clicks to that calendar. What is my click-through rate? What's my conversion? And then I'm also going to have a certain amount of leads and a certain amount of call to actions that I'm going to need to make in order to hit that number. Now, typically, I'm going to divide whatever number I come up with by 22 days because that's the average amount of working days that you get in a given month. And so that gives you a realistic goal Monday to Friday of what you need to achieve in your business. And so each of you will have a slightly different marketing process. And so you want to really just map out all those metrics. And again, this is one of the things that we do with clients inside of Media Firestorm is look at their business, look at their metrics, and really help them identify what are these metrics, what are the averages, and really help them to figure out how to improve it. So an example here is that if you have a typical business that we work with, we're getting them traffic by being a podcast guest, and we're getting them to email their list to get the conversions coming through. If we need, let's say, 150 scheduled calls, and my calendar is converting 10% of people, which would be average for a call booking calendar, we have a process we call the minimum viable calendar that we do with all of our clients. Our calendar right now converts at 16%. And so you can get significantly higher numbers than this. But essentially, that would tell you, okay, great, I actually need to generate 1,500 clicks. Like, that's how many clicks I need to physically get onto this calendar. If you break that down by day, okay, that means we need 68 clicks a day. So in order for you to get 150 scheduled calls, we now know I need to take a daily action that's going to get me 68 people to go and land on this calendar based on my conversion. If you've got a higher average number than that, even better. Now, I do want to preface this. It's really important that you base these marketing numbers on the real number that exists in your business, not where you want it to be. Because you need to map these numbers out based on current performance and then work towards improving metrics that look like they're not going to be able to accomplish this. More on that in a little bit later inside of this video. So if we just look at this and it's 68 clicks a day, here's how we could calculate this. If we have a 0.5% click-through rate in our emails, meaning every time we send an email to our list, we're getting 0.5% of people clicking, then we need 13,600 people on the list. Now, if we had a 1% click-through rate, we'd need 6,800 people on the list. So really important here is for you to reverse engineer these metrics and figure out, well, what would it take? And to be clear, this is really powerful because literally if you have a 1% click-through rate, you could have 100K in revenue from call bookings coming in just based on a 5K average ticket price and a 6,800 person email list. Most people don't realize that this is possible. And it's really just by having a consistent marketing process and really knowing your numbers and what you need to do with these activities. So the goal here, as you're coming through this process, is really simple. We really just want to identify how many clicks and actions you need to actually have taken in your marketing process in order to book a call. And we want to reverse engineer what actions are required for you to take that result. And so an example here would be, marketing action number 1, I need to send an email. And then marketing action number 2, if I have 3,000 or 5,000 people on my list, and I know I need 10,000 people on my email list, then I need to go generate traffic through a daily marketing activity to grow that list in order to get to that goal, right? An example could be podcast guesting. And so really key is just recognizing, okay, here's what is required in order for me to get to that level. Now, if you're listening to this video and you're like, well, this sounds great, Jamie, but how does this actually apply to my business? I don't really know how to find these metrics or those details. It's exactly why we have a program called Media Firestorm, where we work with business owners like yourself, doing anywhere from 6 figures to multiple 7 figures a year, to help them figure out how to add an extra 100K a month or get to their first 100K in the business. And we do it primarily through leveraging podcasting as well as the marketing systems we've put together inside of our Media Firestorm program. So if this sounds like something you'd be interested in, you really just want us to help you figure out, and do a bottleneck analysis to figure out where the marketing opportunities could be in your business, just click down below in the description. You can go and apply to potentially work with us, and we'll have a call to see whether this is something we might be able to help you with. Now, really clear, inside of that program, we're going to give you access to our database of 2,000 plus podcasters that we've actually generated inbound to basically give you free traffic and unlimited podcast bookings to generate more leads without having to pay for Facebook ads or something like that, as well as giving you access to 3 weekly calls with me and my co-founder, access to a community, and access to us and our insights and all of our SOPs and playbooks to help you grow the business and get that accountability and guidance to take it to the next level. Now, the next thing that I would do on this path of how I'd scale a business to 100K a month is really just making sure I'm setting myself up with a compounding offer. Now, I have made this mistake in my business multiple times, and it's a mistake I wish I had figured out significantly earlier on. So I just want to give you first of all, a definition for what a compounding offer is. A compounding offer is an offer that brings you recurring revenue instead of all of your revenue having to be generated from scratch every single month. Now, most businesses, what they do is they sell a one-time thing. They say, here's my thing and it's $10,000 and you buy it now and it lasts for 3 months or 6 months or 12 months. And what typically happens is that you're not able to retain that customer, you're not able to upsell that customer. They have a very finite view of what that offer is. And you're also not able to actually create any recurring or monthly revenue inside of the business. Now, why is it really important to have that? I mean, first of all, at the beginning of every month, if you have recurring revenue in your business, you get free marketing capital. So just imagine for a second, instead of having a $10,000 offer, let's just imagine we had a $2,500 a month offer. In order to collect the same amount of cash, we would want to make sure customers stay for at least 4 months. But with an offer that's compounding, if we've got 10 customers that are paying us $2,500 a month, we start the month with $25,000 of capital, and we can essentially gamble that money on more marketing to generate more customers. And pretty much any return on marketing investment, you're really going to be looking at averaging 3 to 4x on that money. So $25,000 of marketing investment should be netting you, $100,000 of new customers coming back in. And if it's a compounding offer, we can just repeat the goal. Now, the other reason that I think it's really important for you, even early on, to create a compounding offer is that it actually creates something that I call a fulfillment dependency. And what this means is, like, right now in your business, if you just have a one-time product price, let's say it's $5,000 when you sell something for the first time, all of your revenue is generated in the marketing and the sales. None of your revenue is generated in delivery. So you really don't have any financial incentive in the business to give a better quality service. And ultimately your focus is going to be on selling, not on delivering. Whereas when we flip the script and we have an offer that's a compounding offer, actually, it's significantly easier to keep a customer than it is to sell a new customer. And so our focus and our energy shifts from being exclusively on marketing and sales to actually being around giving a better quality service, which ultimately is how you're going to build a great long-term business, is by having a great product. But if you don't set up a compounding offer, there really isn't much of an incentive for you to make the offer better. And this is one of the reasons that we shifted this around instead of our Media Firestorm offer, because now we put significantly more resources into getting more access to great podcasts, getting more traffic. We're actually going to be adding in a quarterly mastermind for our clients. And just generally, we're giving a higher level of service, not only because we give a fuck about our clients, but because we're actually going through the process of making more money when we do that. And so really important, it's going to give you the ability to gamble on marketing with lower risk. And if I was starting a business all over again, I 100% would make sure I'd be setting it up with a compounding offer to get started. Now, I want to talk very briefly on funnel types for success. A lot of people get really confused with funnels. Don't overcomplicate funnels. Funnels are very, very simple. There are only two types of funnels that exist. You are either buying on a call of some kind, or you are buying on a checkout. And when I say buying on a call, I really just mean buying face to face, right? It could be a phone call, it could be in a DM conversation, it could be on a Zoom call, it could be in person, but you are doing a one-to-one transaction face to face, selling one-to-one. Whereas a checkout funnel could be a webinar, it could be a video sales letter, it could be a challenge series, it could be, selling directly from email to a checkout, it could be doing a sales page. But fundamentally, there are only really two ways that you are going to get customers to give you money: one-to-one or through some kind of checkout page. Now, what's really important to understand is that both of these funnels operate with the same rules for growth. So step number one, whether you're driving someone to a call booking page or you're driving someone to a checkout page, how many people you drive to that booking or checkout page is a fundamental part of it, and that's traffic. So if I get 1,000 people to land on a checkout page and 3% of buy, or 100 people to a call booking page, 10 people book a call, that's going to be really fundamental and important for the way we set this up. The second thing is how many people actually buy through the call or checkout page. This is the conversion. And third, how much do they spend when they buy? What's the average order value? So it doesn't matter the funnel type, these three elements are prevalent in both of those funnels. So typical rule of thumb, just to understand here, if you're selling something that's under $3,000, usually a checkout funnel is gonna work in that scenario. Your average conversion is gonna be about 3% most of the time. If you're selling something that's over $3,000, usually you're gonna have a better time selling it via a call funnel, and you're gonna get about a 20% average conversion. Call funnels are more limited. You need someone to take the calls. Checkout funnels are more leveraged, but they've got a higher skill ceiling. You need to be really good at the skill dependencies to succeed. And I want to touch on those skill dependencies, the things that we see that you need in order to do well with these two different types of funnels. So if you're doing a checkout funnel, the number one skill dependency, and I'm putting this in order of importance, is always traffic. If you were trying to sell something via checkout pages, the number one skill that you need to be good at is generating bucket loads of traffic. And usually most people that have checkout funnels and people who sell this way use paid traffic. Connor, one of my clients, is a really great example of this. He has a viral TikTok agency. They sell a $97 product, and they also have a more expensive back-end product they sell via a call now. But they make $700,000 a month in that offer on the $97 offer. What they're really good at in that business is traffic. They generate a lot of traffic. They spend upwards of $300,000 a month on advertising. And so step number one is traffic. Step number two, copywriting. You have to be able to have a great page and a great checkout page that converts. Number three, offer creation. Arguably the most important thing there, apart from traffic, is just making sure you've got a strong offer that people want to buy. And sometimes you might need presentation skills if you're selling in a checkout funnel, like a webinar or a challenge, for example. Now, call funnels, significantly easier in my opinion. The number one thing you need with a call funnel is just conviction, your belief in your process. I had a client, she was a therapist. She'd been a therapist for 25 years. Her name's Dana. And Dana had never done sales calls before in her life. And she'd never even known what a course or an online program was before. And she went from selling one-on-one therapy sessions for $100 a pop to selling a $5,000 or $3,000 program. Can't remember which the price point was. And with Dana, she booked 5 sales calls, and 4 of those 5 sales calls ended up buying. She had no sales experience. She had no understanding of how to sell. She just was really convicted that she could help these women to have better relationships because she'd been doing it for 30 years. So really important, conviction is the number one trait. And then beyond that, you need to be able to build rapport, have good work ethic, to be able to follow up with leads. And obviously, if you've got sales ability, that helps as well if you're doing a sales call. So my personal pick for 90% of folks when you're picking this funnel is call funnels, because you need significantly less traffic for success, and most people aren't good at traffic. And then secondly, you're gonna have naturally higher conversion rates. Call funnels average 20% conversion rather than 3% conversions, and you just need less polish overall. You don't need a fancy website, you don't need a fancy funnel. We encourage all of our clients to use a minimum viable calendar to book the calls in. And so you can literally build one of those out in Calendly and get really high conversion rates. So just generally speaking, it's much easier to scale. Now, final thing I want to talk about here before we go into some of the mindset stuff is how to fill the funnel. Now, when it comes to marketing in the business, we talk about two types of marketing. And I think this is really key for a lot of you to understand, because I see so many of you as low-level business owners who are doing 10K a month, trying to run Facebook ads before you've really stabilized marketing in the business. And similarly, I see a lot of 7-figure plus businesses who are doing, sometimes 3 or 400K a month inside of their business that really don't have as much stability, and they're really struggling to scale because of it. And so I want to talk about these two different things. First of all, what's the difference between a stabilizing marketing system and a leverage marketing system? Stabilizing marketing systems are typically free, underpriced, or warm traffic. So we're talking about things like organic content, podcast guesting, email marketing to an opted-in broadcast list. More leverage marketing systems is something that's typically more scalable, more leverage. It's typically paid, or if you're not paying directly for ads, you're paying for people to do more outbound or to do more outreach, and you're typically going to be reaching colder audiences in that particular example. So some examples of leverage marketing systems would be Facebook or YouTube ads, Google AdWords, cold email, cold calling, cold outbound, that sort of stuff. Now, what I always encourage you to think about when you're looking at these two types of marketing types to fill the funnel, like we talked about earlier with the marketing math, how do we get enough people actually on the calendar? The first thing is always to think through a content first thinking. So the reason that we always say content first thinking is that imagine you go out and your business just runs Facebook ads. You run an ad, somebody clicks on it, they see you, they've got no understanding or idea of what you're doing. And before they're actually going to make a decision, a lot of the time, they're going to want to figure out if you're legitimate or not. And the first thing they're going to do is Google you. They're going to Google the business name, your name, or they're going to Google something related to what's going on. If they can't find anything related to who you are or what you do, they are not going to be likely to go and transact with you or to take that next step. And so what's really important when you're thinking through content first is that people are going to be doing their due diligence on you in the sales process. In the beginning, you can sometimes get away with just a really effective marketing message where you say, hey, I'm gonna give you this outcome. I'm gonna get you on unlimited podcasts, or I'm gonna get you to grow the business through this methodology. Sometimes that's enough, and you are gonna get those high-risk people who are gonna move a little bit faster. But over time, you actually need to have consistency in that messaging, and we call this stabilized marketing, because people who are gonna go do their due diligence are going to see you, and from that point, you're gonna have higher trust and authority. You're going to find typically that your marketing is going to be lower cost. And a lot of the time when you do this more content first thinking, this more leveraged approach, it's going to complement any of that more leveraged marketing you're going to do later. And a lot of the time, this content that you put out with a more stabilizing approach, like podcast guesting, not only does it make other forms of marketing and trust and authority stronger, but you can actually generate leads directly from that content as well. So for example, when you put content onto your social page, you can sometimes generate leads from it, but actually the main goal there for most high-level businesses is trust building. When somebody comes into your business for the first time, how do they know that you're actually legitimate? By seeing that content, by consuming that content. And so I always say when we're looking at how to fill the funnel, we really want to be looking at these two different types of marketing and thinking through a content first thinking solution as we outline it. Now, final thing I want to talk about is what we call 8-figure mindset. Now, for most of you, you're trying to get to your first 100K a month, become a 7-figure business owner, or you're already a 7-figure business owner and you're trying to add a couple extra 100K a month onto the business. One of the biggest things that I've seen with successful 8-figure business owners, I'm in a couple of masterminds where, there's 10, 20, 30 people doing $1 million to $5 million a month. The biggest thing that I've noticed is that those business owners, the way that they look at time versus money is significantly different from a business owner that's lower level. So the difference between making $1 million isn't just the money, it's also the time associated with it. So if you make $1 million in sales, but it takes you 20 years to get that result, most people would be disappointed. But if you made $1 million in 3 months, that's going to be something that's going to be considered to be very effective. So time is actually one of the most important factors when it comes to your business revenue. And one of the factors that we've noticed about these 8-figure business owners is the number one trait is their ability to execute with speed. We call this speed to action. So to give you a really good example of this, very recently, I had to redesign our landing page for our call booking thank you confirmation page. I needed to update the first video. I needed to record, 10 different breakout videos with little 1 to 2 minute video answers. And it took me around about 2 to 3 weeks to get all 20 videos done, to rewrite the copy, to get it finished. I was really busy in other areas of the business. Now, somebody else in the mastermind who was doing about $1.2 million a month, that business owner had exactly the same problem, but guess how long it took him to do the same things it took me? It took him an hour and a half. No exaggeration. He blasted out all of the videos. It was a 3-minute video and 15 2-minute videos. He'd recorded them all, uploaded them as he was going, and he was pretty much done within about an hour and a half. The difference between why he makes more money than me is really because of his ability to execute at a faster speed on the problems that are presented in the business. And this is something I'm actively trying to always improve within myself as a business owner to order to get to this next level in the business. Now, how we help clients to do this is that we really focus on what we call growth multipliers. Now, speed to action, you also have to consider that the activity that you're trying to accomplish, the bigger and more complex that action, the longer it's going to take you to do it. For example, if you need to go and create a whole brand new webinar with 250 slides, that's going to take you significantly longer than putting up a simple calendar and just changing a headline. So what we want to always look at here is something that we call the B average theory. Rather than you focusing on trying to make the best element inside of the business that you can and spending a lot of time to do that, what we instead focus on is going wide and being average first. And what we're looking for in your KPIs for your business is the growth multipliers. We're looking for 2x's, 3x's, and sometimes 5x's. So for example, if your call booking page in your business right now performs at 2%, average is 10%. That's a 5x growth multiplier. You could have 5 times as many booked sales calls if we fix that one element, and it can be fixed in less than an hour with the right approach. So one of the things that's really important here, and this is what we do with all of our clients inside of Media Firestorm, is that we evaluate and look at the business and we focus on the biggest opportunities with growth multipliers, looking through the lens of what can we be average in and what can we complete in the fastest amount of time that has the biggest bang for our buck. And so it's all about focusing on fast, simple, focused on average, and essentially getting all of those things average as quickly as possible in the fastest time possible. And so really, really important for us to think through this 8-figure mindset. And we also have something that we call this unified goal theory. I learned this from a higher level business owner than us, and it was very powerful from a mastermind. He talked about not having multiple goals, but actually having one goal. And instead of you tackling this goal by yourself, having your whole team bought in on completing that goal. So the way that unified goal theory works is essentially set one goal to focus on until you solve it completely. So when we sit down with a business and we look at all their KPIs and we look at their metrics and we look at the data and we identify, okay, this is going to give us a double, this is going to give us a 3x, this could give us a 5x. We pick one goal that we want to focus on that we can complete in the fastest amount of time possible. And it's going to have the biggest upside in revenue generation. And then what we do is we bring the whole team behind that one goal. And this gives you accountability, it gives you leverage, it gives you speed. So your team is going to keep you accountable to accomplishing the goal. You're going to have more leverage because your team is either going to take things off your plate so you can accomplish this goal, or they're going to help you with activities to get it done. And by having the goal set across the team and not being able to focus on anything else but this one goal, it's going to generate speed in which you solve these problems inside of the business. And one step beyond that, which is very powerful, is actually incentivizing the goal. And so if the team achieves the result, there's a financial compensation in it for them. And so these are some of the different things that I would do if I was sort of on the ground floor, building my business again from scratch. I hope this is valuable for you. If you like this content, please do me a favor and like the video, maybe subscribe to the channel. I'm aiming to put out significantly more videos to help you guys understand how to scale your business against the next level. Again, if you're interested in finding out more about whether we can help you inside of your business with Media Firestorm, giving you access to high quality podcasts, as many bookings as you like, and the systems and focuses to help you grow the business, go click down into the description to apply to work with us in Media Firestorm, and we'll see you in the next video.